Howdy everyone, my name is Tylor Birthisel. I'm a paleontologist here at the Natural History Museum of Utah, and today we're going to take a spin around the lab here and meet some of our amazing volunteers so they can give you a first look at some of the amazing fossils that they're working on and get a chance to see what goes on in the Paleo lab that most people typically don't get to see. So let's take a spin. So we're in the lab today with one of my awesome volunteers, Randy Johnson here. And Randy, can you tell us the story of how you found this amazing specimen?
Yes, I can, Tyler. I was wandering around the grand staircase, prospecting for new fossils. I came across this scattering of bones down a hillside, and the thing that caught my eye was this particular bone. To me, this looked like a piece of Pachycephalosaur skull, which was very rare and something we have not found any full skeletons for, and I really wanted to find one. Followed the trail up the hillside and tried to see where this was coming from. Usually you have to follow them up and see if there's a piece of rock or some ledge where things are coming out, and I couldn't find anything. So I brought a screen back the next day, and I started screening through it all, and I found that there were two trails of bone going up to this one point. So I pulled out this dead bush, and I wiggled this one rock out that was loose, and I found this tooth impression, which is the impression of the upper jaw of the animal. That really got me excited. I was just jumping up and down. I called Tyler right away and said, I found the tooth impressions, I've got a skull. Got Natalie to come back with me, and we started uncovering things. And the first thing that we uncovered, besides the jaw, which isn't here, but it's kind of messed up, but was this horn. And that immediately gave us a clue of what we had here. It's definitely a ceratopsian.
Yeah, so after we dug it out and worked on it, do we know if this is a new type of ceratopsian, or do we know who he's related to?
We do. It's apparently a type of pentaceratops. It has a different number of epioccipitals, these little bumps along the side of the frill. So what we found was exactly half of the skull.
So you're telling me this is a brand new species of pentaceratops.
I am.
If you got a chance to name this guy, what would you name it?
It looks a lot like a gladiator. Like it's got a big shield in front of it. It's got some spears. It's got these huge horns for spears. So maybe Gladiatorus.
You found and worked and thinking of a name of this one. You also have another dinosaur that's named after you.
I do.
Which one is more important to you? The one named after you, or this one that you've done all the work on?
Well, this is probably more exciting for me, since I started off with just a little bone that actually took me a lot of work to try to find it. And I did all the excavation along with a crew. I hooked it up to the helicopter net, did all the prep work here. With the ankylosaur, I got a block that had a skull in it, and I prepped that out, even though that was one of the first things I ever did. It's an extreme honor to have a dinosaur named after you. It's like something that you can only dream of, especially as a volunteer. It's something you can't even dream of. But this is really more exciting for me, since it's a new species, and I've done the entire work and everything with it. So yeah, this one.
Well, awesome. Thank you for informing us about this amazing specimen, Randy.
You're welcome, Tyler.
I have another one of my amazing volunteers in the lab today, JEANETTE Bonnell, and she's going to tell us the amazing story of Dystrophius here and how we collect this specimen that was first found over 150 years ago. So JEANETTE, can you tell me what it's like just to get to this quarry?
Getting to the Dystrophius site is one of the most challenging quarries that I've worked at. You have two options, whether you scramble up rocks or you go up this ledge, rappelling up it. And you get to this ledge and you look out and the vistas are absolutely beautiful. And you think back and you're going like, the people that discovered this back in the late 1800s, they saw the same view as where I'm seeing at that time.
So you were mentioning about going up. You know I wouldn't let you fall, so I'm the one on the ropes making sure you don't fall.
Well, that is true. I mean, and plus you're very strong, so you're just kind of holding those ropes and everything.
Yep. So once you get up to the quarry, what makes the bones at Dystrophius different than bones at other quarries you've worked at?
Well, not only the color, because there's kind of a purple pinkish hue, but they're very coarse, and the material that we're working with is very hard. In order to break through it, it's not just a normal hammering with a chisel. You're just, yeah. And we use not only the jackhammers, but we use saws just to get through there.
So you mentioned that we have to climb up with ropes to get to this quarry, and it's on a ledge. How do we get the blocks down then?
So we put together jackets with plaster and everything. And if it's a really heavy jacket, something that you wouldn't normally be able to carry down that slope and rappel down with it, then we put it into a big, huge net. And at the end of the season, a helicopter will come in and take the big jackets, usually the ones that are probably 300 on up. If not, we'll put them in our backpacks. And when we're going down and we're rappelling down that slope, some people carry it in their backpacks. I don't do that. I just slide my backpack down.
So what are some of the pieces that you fully prepped out there already?
So this one here is a vertebrae, as well as this. These are sauropods, and they've got long tails and long necks. Then I've got, this is either a finger or toe bone. In prepping something like this, you know, you've got the matrix around here, and as you're chiseling away, again, like I said, it was really coarse and hard material. You have to be careful that you don't nix the fossil and everything. So did a pretty good job here where there aren't too many nicks.
Since we've cracked open this block here, how many hours has it taken just to get to this point and get those few bones out on this block?
It hasn't been easy. It's been over 600 or 700 hours that I've spent. And that's due to the fact that it's such a hard material to work with. So it just adds more time and stuff. But it's coming out pretty good.
I have another one of our amazing volunteers, Ann Johnson here, who has been working on this absolutely beautiful specimen right here. So, Ann, what was it like preparing the skull of this animal right here?
It was like Christmas morning every single day. I never knew what I was going to find when I started working on this.
Was this block larger when we first started working on it?
It was quite a bit larger. When we first opened it up, his femur was laying across the skull, so we had to take that out first and prepare that separately. When they found it in the field, they found this part of the jaw and saw a couple of teeth, so we knew we had a skull, but it was just amazing what we were finding as I prepared it.
And since you spent so much time working on this specimen, Ann, did you give this guy a nickname or anything?
I did give him a nickname. In the field, his nickname was Hollywood, but as I was working on him down on the lower jaw, I found his tail wrapped around his jaw, found the very tip of his tail right there, going right into the mouth. So I nicknamed him Ouroboros, which is the Greek equivalent of the serpent or the dragon that swallowed his own tail. So he's now Boris.
And how long did it take you to prep this whole skull block when we brought it in for you to work on?
The prep took about 1,200 hours over a course of about 9 months.
Wow, so that was pretty much, you were working on this full time over the course of that 9 months.
I was. And it was so much fun because it's so complete, and so there's just so many of these bones that are not ordinarily found, and it was just so much fun. Just so much fun.
So we know this Tyrannosaur is teratophonius, and you've done an amazing job with it. Has this been your favorite specimen that you've prepared?
Very much so, yes. He's my baby.
We have another great volunteer in the lab with us today. I have BJ Nichols, and BJ, has been working on a labor of love of this specimen here for, I forget how long you've been working on this, BJ. So how long have you been working on this?
I got to find the fossil in the field in 2012. That was at the Indian Creek Quarry down in southeastern Utah. Everybody else was on the quarry site with brushes and little dental picks and stuff. And Mike handed me a chisel and a 4-pound hammer because I was on the hard rock. So I started splitting rock, and I discovered the first bone of this guy. It was one of these vertebrae, popped out, little hourglass shape. It took a while to get this guy back here because they had to cut it out with a diamond saw, and that wasn't available at the time.
So you've been working on this for over 7 years now?
Well, this and a related block. So this is like the next door block, but mostly this. This was about 6 years of Sunday afternoons, and I figured it's something along the line of 1,300 hours.
Why is it taking you so long to prepare these bones out?
You know, I was working on it with the mallet and the chisel because the part of quarry that I was working on was hard rock. And what's going on with this one is the matrix rock is generally like really hard. It needs like big tools to be able to work through it. But the bone itself, the mineralization on it is very soft. So if I touch any of these fine details with the tool, it'll just blow away. So what I had to do is I had to learn how to use the microscope. Almost all of the prep that I do here, except once in a while I've got a big open space that I can work with a bigger tool, is with this microscope and the smallest tool, air tool, that I can use. And trying to preserve the superfine detail that's in this. It's a juvenile sphenacodon.
So with this sphenacodon, why are we leaving all the bones in the rock, and why aren't we prepping them out as like 3D pieces?
First, I like to disappoint you, but second is these bones are so delicate. In fact, you can see a piece here. This is a rib that I actually prepped it as a bridge, but they're so delicate that you couldn't handle them. So I've left them, you know, some of these edges here are thinner than paper edge. So I've left them in the matrix. I don't know whether it's been done yet, but I know the plan was to CT scan these, see if there are more bones in there. But the CT scan can often image the detail, and you can have the full 3D view of a piece.
Since we've had so many bones jumbled in these blocks here, which bone out of all of them in this jumble has been your favorite to work on?
I think my favorite one, because it's just like so nicely preserved, is this quadrate. This is the bone here at the top of the hinge at the back of the skull. And here's the little hinge point. But it is gorgeous.
So that's your favorite, but for me, have you found what I consider the coolest parts, the sharp pointy teeth or anything like that?
One of the early things that I found was up here. And this guy is the pterygoid. And these guys were so primitive, they had things that like amphibians and fish have. They have these teeth on the palate that curve back toward the back of the throat. Presumably so that when they're like munching slippery prey, they've got the grip on the top of the mouth.
So you mentioned it took you 6 years to get this block all set,
Yep.
and you're working on its brother block right there. How many years do you think it'll take you to get that one done?
Depending on how much time we can come in, you know, with the lab situation now, probably another year. Probably another year.
So we'll be seeing this done then next year.
Well, then
Well, you better
there's
make it
more.
happen.
There's
that's all
more
I'll say.
sphenacodon that needs me, and I bonded with this. This is my boy. So you know, I wanna continue to bring it to light.
So I have another one of my amazing volunteers. I have Lori Nichols here, and Lori has been working on fragments from a large block of this animal. Lori, what can you tell me about what you're working on today?
Well, this is Deinosuchus, which was a large crocodile-type creature. Was found in the Rainbows and Unicorn quarry in Grand Staircase. But it lived at the same time as most of the tyrannosaurs. The quarry where this was found was the same as the quarry where the tyrannosaurs are found.
So you mentioned that this came from the Rainbows and Unicorns quarry. Do you know the history of the name of Rainbows and Unicorns?
I do not.
Well, the reason it got its name Rainbows and Unicorns was the person that originally found it said they found all these amazing fossils in this quarry. And kind of as a joke, I'm like, it sounds like almost made up, like it's rainbows and unicorns. And then as they kept preparing and digging all these fossils out, we kept finding all these amazing animals all buried together. And it kind of turned out to be rainbows and unicorns. So with how many fossils there and how beautiful they are, it kind of perpetuated that myth. So we've kind of kept that going as the running joke of the quarry. As you've been working on this specimen, you found a lot of bones. Roughly how many bones do you think you've found in your block so far?
Probably 30.
That sounds like a lot of bones to find. Are you doing anything special as you're preparing them out?
Well, I'm trying to keep some of it all intact. You can see this vertebrae is connected to other bone, and I'm trying to get that all out in one block. And so I'm slowly chipping away at it with this tool.
As you're saying, you're trying to keep everything together. Are we doing any special mapping or anything like that to track how the bones were related to each other?
We are mapping where all the bones were found in the cast. And we do that by putting a grid over the specimen and then putting it onto graph paper.
So why are we mapping all those bones in place then?
Well, we think it might be so they could maybe tell what direction the water was flowing. That's a possibility.
Lori, how long have you been working on your specimen here?
About 500 to 600 hours over the course of a year.
You're intimately acquainted with
Yes,
this dinosaur, or actually alligator.
Right.
Wow, we've just gone through a whirlwind of all these fossils that we've seen volunteers working on in the lab here. And just to give you an idea of how important volunteers are, volunteers contribute over 20,000 hours a year in the lab. And with all that effort that they do, that's the equivalent of 10 full-time paleontologists. And to get that type of work, to see all their results in the galleries for everyone to see and research is amazing. And we can't do it without our volunteers.